So maybe I'll introduce myself again. I think that you heard from my friend for over 20 years. Yes, as she said, friendships are invaluable, but then it also doesn't mean that everybody should be a friend, okay? We build quality networks and not just networks, okay? So this is somebody that I've known for close to 20 years, and it's been a good friendship for all these years, okay? So I would like to start from there just to tell you how some of these networks can be built. Okay. So I was going to school in the uni to do my master's. She was doing her national service. We lived around the same place, and getting out of Legon those days was not as easy as now that you have the shuttle buses and all that. So it's either you drove there or you stood there forever waiting for a cab to pick you up, especially when it's evening. So I saw that as an opportunity to get her home early enough. And then in the mornings, we could come to school together as well. And that little gesture is what has built over 20 years of friendship. So sometimes you need to go out of your way to make life easier for people. And out of that, you could build very, very good relations that could last for years. So that's the genesis of where we come from. Okay. So I think she's introduced me. So I'll skip that since we're a bit behind schedule. Okay. So today we want to talk about freedom. Freedom is not just about free and then there's no attachment to it. There's freedom, but then freedom must also come with responsibility. Okay, so these are things I took off the internet, and it says that freedom is the power to act, speak, or think as you want. Okay, so we have because we live within a place where our laws give us rights, we can act the way we think we want to act, we can speak freely, and then what we have in our minds as well, we have the opportunity to think whatever we want to think. And it's another definition says that it's also the power or the right to speak, act, and change as you want without hindrance or without a restraint. Okay, so its freedom sounds very pleasing from what we actually see over the internet. If I have the right to act, speak, or think any way I want without restraint, that looks very, very pleasant. Okay. But I also want to tell us that freedom is not just about having because I can do it, I will do it. Because it's actually a two sides of a coin. So, for instance, I can make statements that I'm going to burn Ghana down. I will take the current president off his seat. I have the right to say that. I have the right to think that, but that could land me into jail, okay? Because although I have the right to do it, I don't live alone. I live in a society. There are things that the society accepts, and there are things that the society does not accept. There are things that the law accepts and does not accept. So as far as I have the right to think what I want to think, maybe I see myself as the next president. And so I can go on air and say that within the next 24 hours, I'm going to be the president of Ghana. But the fact that I think that and I see that does not give me the right to go and say that on air. Probably in my head, I will not have any issues. But if I go on air to say that within 24 hours, I'm going to be the next president of Ghana, and I'm going to make sure the current president is blah, blah, blah. Maybe before I even go off air, I would have national security at my door. Okay. So it is not just about having freedom, but every action also has a responsibility that goes with it. And that's what I want us to take a look at today, knowing that every action is not just about the action, but it's also about what happens after you've taken that action. So I just wanted to give an example of when we start to have some freedom. So for most of us, from your primary school ages, you are watched all the time by your parents. Your parents take you to school, pick you up. You are practically followed everywhere, okay? So maybe your first chance of getting freedom will be when you get into the boarding school. And that might be at the secondary school level usually. So for people getting into secondary school, maybe that's the only time they've had the opportunity to be with them by themselves without their parents being there. And we all have different tolerance levels. For some people, freedom is like a capsule to the moon, and they forget that it has its other side of the coin. So they go out of line because they've never had the opportunity to take their own decisions in that space. Okay. For others as well, because they had the orientation of you need to be responsible for whatever you do. Although they have the freedom, they have behind their minds that I can do this, but then what is the consequence of doing that? Okay. So that actually makes us understand that we have to inculcate that habit into children quite a bit early, that you have permission to do everything you want, but then you should be responsible for whatever comes up after you have done whatever that you feel like it's your right to do. Okay. For instance, somebody says that I have the right to do drugs, and somebody called the we wisdom plant or whatever. So to him, it is something that gives him a lot of wisdom. But then what is the consequences of doing the drugs? Addicted, you may get organ damage. Some people even get overdoses and die out of it. Okay. And it's not everybody who starts a drug and they can come out of it. So the good side, the first half of the coin is that at that point you get a temporary high. People say that when you are visual, when you are an artist, when you are a stage performer, it gives them energy to perform. That may be true, but then what happens when your kidneys give way and you need to be on dialysis? I don't think you can be jumping on any stage. So for every action that we take, we should know that I may be enjoying the benefits of it now, but in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, what is it going to be? Okay. So an example is also from the university where you may decide that I came here to study. So I choose and pick which events I attend. Because actually, the good thing about university is that almost every time there's something going on. There's one whole week or the other. There's one miss this or Mr. That or whichever meeting that you have. So you need to actually have your choices right, because your primary aim of coming to school is not to come and socialize. So the socialization is just an added benefit for you coming to school. So if you don't get your focus right, that my primary aim of being here is to study, and you actually spend most of your time socializing, you may have a wide network of friends, but then there won't be even friends that are focused because they are also equally not, they don't understand their primary reason for being there. So it's a bunch of people that are not going anywhere. And that kind of network is not really important. It's not network that can give you future benefits. Okay. So at every point in time, you must know your primary aim. You know, when you are aiming at nothing, for instance, if I live in Medina and I pick a vehicle from Medina, some people will alight at probably the university. Others will alight when probably they get to the shopping mall. There are people who will alight towards 37 and people will go towards Accra. So just imagine that you go and sit in a vehicle and you don't know where you're going. You could actually sit in that vehicle, get to Accra and come back to Medina, okay? Because you don't have any focus. And usually that is where the challenge is. For every situation, what helps you to make the right choice is that you have a focus. So I have the option to learn with drugs. Probably when I'm learning with drugs, what will take somebody 1 hour to learn, I can learn it in 15 minutes. So that is one option I have. But the second option is that I don't want in 10 years' time to be spending my money on dialysis. So because of that, I choose not to do drugs. Okay. So then you are looking at it from both sides of the coin. So if you don't have a focus in mind that I want to do this, then every kind of wind will blow you everywhere because you are going nowhere. So if I sit in that vehicle from Medina to Accra, for instance, and I don't know that I'm alighting at probably the shopping mall, I can just follow anybody and decide, oh, this person alighted at 37. Let me also alight at that point. So actually, the most of the choices that we make is because for that area of our lives, we don't have a focus. So someone can tell you that, oh, I'm going to the bush canteen. Can you escort me there? Why should I escort you to the bush canteen? What am I going to do there? So unless I have something doing there, for instance, I also equally want to go and buy something there. There's no point spending 30 minutes of my time working with you because you need company. Okay, but because you don't have a focus, anybody can say, oh, I want to go to the night market, and then you follow them. You spend 30 minutes of your time. You come back, another person wants to go to Baum Library, probably to print something. You have no business there, but you follow them anyway. Okay. But if the person comes to you and you know that from 4 to 5 is my time for study, it doesn't matter how well I know you, I'm not following you anywhere because I know what I'm supposed to do at this particular time. So the reason why a lot of people abuse their freedom is that for certain areas of their lives, there's no target, there's no focus. So every little wind that blows them, oh, everybody is doing this, then they go to do that. Even in the university, some people choose courses because a lot of their friends are choosing those courses. Oh, Obia, yes, course. So then they go and choose a course that it has no economic value. When you go into the world of work, it can't add any value to you. But because one, everybody chose that chose that particular course, I want to choose it. Or because my roommate is doing this course, I think it would be good to get somebody to work with to lectures or something. All those things are not necessary. In the world of work, it is each man for himself, okay? So getting a focus very early will help you to make the right kind of choices because if I am not going where you are going, there's no point for us to even be sharing anything together. It's only when our routes are the same, we have the same location, and that will actually help you to also trim down on your friends because if the person is not going where you are going, why are you friends in the first place? Okay, so the basic thing is that there is freedom to do everything, but then your focus, what you want and what you don't want, will decide how you use that freedom because freedom has a price, which is that whatever action you take, you're going to, in a year's time, 2 years' time, sometimes almost immediately, you're going to account for it. So basically, we need a focus. I would also want to talk about what happens when we don't match our freedom with our responsibility. Okay. So first is that you lack discipline and you lack self-control when you don't add any responsibility to whatever you do. When I want to say something, I say it. It doesn't matter whether I'm talking to the president, I'm talking to the board chairman of my organization. That is a lack of self-control. Okay. And even the Bible says that a man without self-control is like a city without a wall. So just imagine that your home, there's no wall there, and you have gold bars in there. I'm sure even if you heard a cat in the night passing there, you would be all thinking that armed robbers have come to your house. Okay. So that's why for most people, they will barely go and stay in a house that does not have a wall. Okay. Because if you can't control the freedom that you have. The Bible says that you are like a city without a wall. You're just there. Anything enters, anything exits. Anything enters, anything exits. Okay, so we need to know that I have the freedom to do this, but I'm not going to do everything because that is not my focus. Okay. And the second one is that we make bad choices. And those bad choices, I think C has lifted a hand. You can come in if you want to come in. I see that somebody raised a hand. Would you like to come in? I saw a hand raised up. If you want to come in, please feel free to stop me and then we discuss. I really do like interactive sessions as well. Okay. So I was saying that one reason that we have to match our freedom with responsibility is that we can make very bad choices. Okay. So a lot of people, they learn to smoke, they learn to drink, they learn to do all these things when they get into the universities because your mother is not there, your father is not there, your mates cannot tell you what to do or not to do. So they cultivate a lot of habits that when they go out, it becomes a problem. For instance, I used to be a teaching assistant in the university, and for one particular hall, it got to a point where there was a craze for a particular model of a car. So everybody wanted to have that car, whether they could afford it or not. So they were dating older men to get that kind of car. And it got to a point, the car park was so full of that model that when they were going home, they couldn't take the vehicles home because probably their parents didn't even own that kind of vehicle. But then the student had it, only used it on campus. And then when we were, that time, the vacations were 3 months of vacation. They will leave the vehicle at school for 3 months, come back to school and start using it again. Okay. That craze to want to own something that you are not yet at that level for can drive you to do all sorts of things that are totally unnecessary. Okay. You could get HIV in the process. You could end up with probably your father's age mate that you didn't plan to do. And it could bring you so many problems. Okay. There were actually incidences where roommates fought over somebody. They were all trying to get to buy them a vehicle, and they thought their roommates also wanted the same thing, and it became a very nasty issue. Okay. So if you don't see that the freedom that you have now to make a choice on campus has to be matched with responsibility, you will make very, very harmful choices. And sometimes the choices don't look harmful now, but they could come up 10 years later, 15 years later. And especially now that there's internet, it's even worse because a lot of the things that we put online, we think that, oh, it's only me and my group of friends that are seeing this. Maybe you will be the next finance minister. Maybe you will be the next defense minister. And then somebody goes to bring up something you did when you were, what, 12 years old or something. And that alone could destroy your chances after so many years when you no longer do those things. Okay. So it is something that we need to take particular attention, that we have the freedom, but it also can give me a harmful effect if I don't control myself. And sometimes the bad thing is that it doesn't happen to you alone. You bring others into it. Okay. So I'll tell you another story from campus as well. There were two gentlemen that were bragging about who can make a lot of money from vacation work and all that. And then they decided to travel during their long vacation to go and make some money. And apparently one decided that, okay, I think to be able to win this bet, I would rather take some drugs abroad and then come back and show him that I made more money than he did. I don't know how he came by the drugs, but he ended up at the airport with the drugs. He was able to pass through Kotoka. But when he got into Heathrow, he was arrested and he was jailed for 10 years. His father, he was a second-year student at the University of Ghana. His father was a very prominent person who had started a very big business. And then now it became news all over that his father was a drug baron. So you see, he took his own choice. He has brought his father into it. And now a family business that was thriving became associated with drugs. But the father had nothing to do with drugs. But one poor decision has brought his father's business down, has brought the family name down. He didn't finish university, he ended up in jail. And then you are tarnishing a whole league, because if the internet does not forget, 10 years down the line, somebody can pull the story and say that you were in jail for drugs. So I don't want you in this particular organization. Okay. So every choice that we make, it comes with a consequence. Okay, so it is important that you know that it's not just about having what you want now. Am I ready for the consequences that comes in life with every choice that I make? Okay. And for some people as well, you may miss opportunities for the decisions you took some time back. There are some people that are extremely rude to anybody they meet. They might not even know the person, but they go out of their way to be rude. So there's also a story of another gentleman that was going to look for a job in the institution. When he got there, the security man was not at post. So he kept honking so hard. And then a gentleman came and said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know nobody was at the gate," and started opening the gate for him. And then he started abusing the person. That what kind of incompetence is this? How can the gate be unmanned? How can he just flared up? Apparently, he was talking to the CEO and he didn't know. Okay. So from the start of the interview, he was already out because what kind of attitude was that? So he was assuming that the person who opened the gate for him was the gateman, so he could talk to him just anyhow because after all, he's only a gateman. Okay. But respecting people has nothing to do with what they do. And actually, most of the people who do these kind of jobs, if they had half your education, probably they could have done much better. Most of them, it's an issue of not having enough funds to go to school, or probably their parents not prioritizing education. So sometimes being mean to people just because you are above them is just not the way to go. Okay. And that cost somebody a very good job because they thought that, oh, this is only the security man. I can shout at him as long as I want. And this is an opportunity that you may not get again. Okay. So every action that we have, we must know that there is a consequence, and then we need to measure that before we take that action. So the freedom is not just freedom, it is also matched with responsibility. Okay. I will take my next slide that says that how do I handle my freedom responsibly? Okay, I am coming from the Bible's perspective, but then I believe that this cuts across from other religions as well. Okay, and the Bible just talks about reaping and sowing. So everything that you do at the point in your time, you're going to reap the benefits of it. And that should be a guiding principle for us. I think that in other religions as well, we have that effect of karma, we have that effect of what you do comes up to you. So for instance, today I was dealing with a lady who was asking for direction. And then when she mentioned her name, it rang a bell. And apparently I was in school with her nephew, and I've known her nephew for over 20 years, and I didn't even know. So when she mentioned her name, I was like, this sounds familiar. Do you know this person? She said, oh, that's my nephew. And it was interesting. So just imagine that probably she was asking for directions. I was rude to her, and then later I get to know that she's the aunt of a very good friend. That would be a very awkward situation. Okay. So the world is very, very connected. So know that whatever you do, it might not be immediate, but then 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, the effect of what happened is going to show up in some way. Sometimes you've outgrown that habit, you've outgrown that those days. Probably you were young, you were irresponsible, but now that you have turned over a new leaf, the past does not forget easily. So it may come up, and then that will be a problem for you at a particular point. So as the Bible says, we are going to reap anything that we sow. So if that is a guiding principle, it helps you to handle your freedom responsibly. Okay. And then we also realize that we have only one life. I'm not going to live and come back and live again. So I better make the best of it. So probably if I had 20 lives, I could experiment with one, come back and see, oh, if I did do drugs for this one, what will happen? Maybe when I die and come back, I'll say, oh, okay, I won't do drugs again. Drugs was not good. Let me try alcohol and see whether that will work. But we only have one life to live, okay? So you are going to make the very best of it and not make choices that are poor. So there are people that I find a bit difficult because sometimes they've lived a very reckless life. And then later in their lives, they turn over a new leaf. But then because of the life they lived before, now they can't enjoy their present life. The doctor says you don't have to eat this, you don't have to drink that, you don't have to do that. Now that you have all the money, what are you going to do with it if everything is you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't drink that? Because probably when you were 20, you were drinking too much alcohol. When you were 25, you were taking too much sugar. When you were this, and now the effect is so much that all the things that you can enjoy with your money now, you cannot do it. Okay. So we only have one life to live, and we have to give the very best out of that. And knowing that I won't come back again, I only live once, and I might as well make the best choices for myself. And then I also say that always ask for help if you think that you are having conflicting issues in your head. And it's not about asking just anybody, because there are some older people, in my opinion, that are more irresponsible than even some younger people. So the key is to ask an older, trusted person when you have a doubt about your actions, okay? It could be your parents, it could be religious leaders, it could be an older siblings. So if you read Proverbs 11:14, it says that in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Okay, so even Solomon, that God gifted with wisdom, he says that for everything that he did, he consulted his council of elders. If God has given me so much wisdom, why must I consult any council of elders? Okay, the good thing is that God did not put the same kind of wisdom in all of us ahead. So I can see it from the mother's point of view. You can see it from a father's point of view. Somebody can see it from a teacher's point of view. So if I talk to three people, I am getting ideas from three different people, and it will help me to make a better choice. But if I take my own opinion, which is I'm young, I'm free, no responsibility, do as your mind tells you, nobody can change me, then you become equal to an animal, because it's an animal that you practically have to hit to get the animal to be at the right place at the right time. Okay. So although you have the right to take any decision you want, anytime that you are in doubt or anytime, and the good thing is that human beings are wired to sense things that are not good. So sometimes you yourself, you know that I don't feel too good about this thing. I don't feel too good about it. Then sometimes you're also torn because, oh, everybody is doing it. Okay, you are not everybody. Anybody who is special does not behave like everybody. For instance, we don't see our president everywhere. And for some people in their whole lifetime, they may never see the president physically, because he's not an ordinary person. Okay. So anybody who desires to be special, anybody who desires to be up there, you can't do everything because ubia yebi. That is for ordinary people. Everybody wants to get 3 piercings, 20 piercings, 10 tattoos. I don't have a problem with those who do it, but think about it. Will it fit in the kind of work I want to do, for instance? For instance, I want to be the bank manager for a. If I have tattoos all over from my scalp all the way to my toes, can I fit into that environment? Okay. So if you don't take that decision looking at the long term, you'll make some very grave mistakes that 10 years down the line you'll be sorry for, but you can't change. Okay. So we've had issues where people have been accused of crimes they didn't commit just because they looked like criminals, because the clothing that they were wearing, the kind of people that they were with at the time when the arrest was made. They've been framed for crimes that they know nothing about, just because at the time when the arrest was taking place, probably they were with a group of friends that were into that particular problem. So even your associations can bring you into good places or very bad places. Okay, but one thing is that anytime you are in doubt, you ask an older person, but that person must be trusted, not just anybody. There are some people that they are old numerically, but when it comes into their mind, they haven't gotten there yet. They didn't mature with their age. So they can be X years and be acting 5 or 10 years below their actual numerical age. So the key is that if you are in doubt, ask a trusted person and ask multiple people, because in the multitude of counsel, the word of God says that there is safety. So that's how you can also handle your freedom. And then I also wanted to talk about how early you can start taking responsibility. Okay. And for a young adult, as soon as you're away from your parents, then you know that you have more responsibility. Because when you are young, your parents took all the decisions for you. Okay, my son will go to X school. From here, he will move on to that secondary school. From there, okay, I have 5 public universities. Let me see, let me see. Okay, you'll go to this university. So probably up to this level, almost all your choices were somehow out of your control. But then as soon as you have your own freedom, probably some will have the freedom at the secondary school level. And even some go to school into boarding schools much earlier than the secondary level. So for everybody, it's different. For some people, they get to be very independent at a younger age because they went into boarding schools early. For some people, it comes at the secondary school level. And then for others as well, it's at the university level that they are on their own. But at every point when you don't have somebody making the decisions for you, for instance, lectures starts as early as 7:30 at the university. You don't need somebody to wake you up and say, go and take a bath and get ready for lectures. You know you have a 7:30 lecture. You know when to set your alarm, when to get up, when to take a bath, when to get into the class. Okay, so at that point, you are responsible for yourself and you must start as early as you don't have adult control over your time. And then it is my time and I have to plan it. Okay. And in that regard, I also want to say that we should be time conscious. Okay. Being time conscious has a lot of benefits. One is that it shows that you're a serious person. Okay. If you're going to, for instance, for an interview, you're going to bid for a job, you're going to see somebody in their office and you are late, that alone is a sign that you are not a reliable person. So somebody says that, oh, today the traffic was so bad. My dear, you've been living at that address for God knows 10 years. You know how Adenta traffic is at 7 o'clock. You know how Kasua traffic is at 7 o'clock. If you had to go to Jubilee House by 8 a.m., you will find your way there by 7:30. So that is the same thing. It's better to under-promise and over-deliver. So for instance, if I can't make it at 8 a.m., I don't need to say I'll get there at 8 a.m. Probably 10 a.m. is something I can do, and I get there on time. Because actually, when you don't show up on time, it's a sign of disrespect for the other party that you're going to meet. And also, if you're somebody who's time conscious, anytime there's an issue, it is very easy for people to know that there's a problem, okay? So I would give you an example about myself. One morning when I was coming into work, I felt very sick. And I couldn't see properly because I felt I was going to pass out any moment soon. And I was driving. So I decided to quickly branch into a hospital and get myself checked. And by 8:05, when I wasn't at work, at least I had 5 calls. They said, is everything okay? Because they knew that I won't get to work beyond 7:30. So by 8 o'clock, and I wasn't seen, I hadn't called anybody yet because I still was being attended to. But I just had everybody calling me because they knew that there was something out of place. Okay. But if you're a habitual latecomer and Kwesi DSR are not here, and that day you may be in danger, but then everybody assumes that, oh, one DSR, and then before you see, something harmful happens. Okay, so for your own safety, you should be known for somebody who is time conscious. It's also a sign of respect for whoever you're going to meet, and actually shows that you're a serious person. It gives you a lot of opportunities because the person knows that you value what you're coming to do. So there's nothing like, oh, Africa mean time, oh, Ghana mean time. When you are late, you're late. It's as simple as that, okay? And it's a habit that it goes on almost everywhere. It becomes sickening, okay? You go to weddings and you wait for 2 hours for the bride to come in. You go to church and sometimes 30 minutes, the service has not started, okay? But you can be the change. You can be the first person to say that this place, we don't do Ghana mean time. We don't do African mean time. When we say 6, it is 6. When we say 7, it is 7. Yes, you may look like the odd one out, but it will still open up so many opportunities for you because people know that you're a serious person. Okay, so that is also one thing that as a responsible person, at first when you were in school, you had somebody ring a bell and say, it's dining hall time, go and eat. Then you go and eat. Somebody rings a bell and says, it's prep time, go to prep. So if you don't take care, you would want to be controlled like that, where somebody tells you when to wake up for lectures, somebody tells you when to go and study. But that is a phase that you've outgrown. When you get to a certain level, you need to set your own alarm clock and say that I'm going to take a nap for 1 hour. From there, I'm going to the BAM library to study. You don't need anybody to tell you that, okay, let's go to BAM library before you follow them. You can go there yourself at a time that's suitable for you. Give yourself enough time that I'm going to study for 2 hours and I'll come back. And before then, it doesn't matter what is happening. I am not leaving the library. Then you are getting more responsible for your time because you are taking responsibility that everybody has 24 hours. I'm not going to waste mine, okay? And it's those little bit of decisions that will eventually take us to higher levels. And then I also want to talk to us about freedom as a single person. Sometimes people feel like when they are single, they can do whatever they want. So if it's as many women as I want to sleep with, oh, after all, it's my body and I have the right to decide and I have the right not to decide. You may have the right to decide, but you may end up living a careless life. And for some people, it's only one sexual encounter that will end up with HIV. For another person, it's only one sexual encounter that you end up with a pregnancy you don't want. And for some families, if you go and get their daughter pregnant, they're not only going to say that, oh, just have the baby and then we talk about it. They're probably going to force you into a marriage that you didn't want. And that is going to be a forever kind of struggle because you just felt like, oh, this one there is a hit and run. And then you are not allowed to run. Then it becomes a challenge for you. So now you've gone to burden yourself with a woman probably you don't want to even look at twice. But the family to says, no, our daughter is not having a baby in this house. So you have tied your whole life to somebody that you didn't really like. You just thought that the person was available. So sometimes we ourselves, we curtail our lives as single people by just sleeping around, dating as many people as we want to because we feel like, oh, I'm smart enough to outwit them and all that. But at the same time, it comes back to bite, okay? And then when it comes to financial freedom as well, you may start probably earning money at your national service level, at your first job, you need to take responsibility. And the first thing is that you need to decide what your income is going to do for you. So for instance, I'm going to pay X amount of money as insurance for myself or as an investment for myself every month. I am going to pay this amount of money probably to my mosque or to my church or to charity. It should be something that you don't compromise on. If you are changing the figures, then you are changing them for the better. Okay. And yes, it's not easy to save. It's not easy to see something that you really want and pass by it. But you should learn to admire things without necessarily buying them. So if I see that the latest iPhone is in town, it could be beautiful. I can admire somebody who has it and say, oh, that's very good. It looks beautiful. It takes good pictures. It does this. It doesn't mean I should necessarily own one. At the right time when I can own one, buying it will be like buying a yam on the market now. Okay. But at the university level, probably you finances to buy it now. It's just a matter of time. But you can actually, one of the best times to save money is when you're in school, Because when you're going to school, your uncle says, oh, Chrissy, you're going, oh, take this. And then auntie says, oh, when you go, pay this. And practically everybody gives you money. So one of the best places to actually make money is when you're in school. And it's not just about saving money, it's about investing money. Okay, so you need to learn about investment portfolios. With a young mind, it's a better approach than waiting until you're in your 30s to start learning about financial things. Okay, there are many things you can learn online. There are many things you can walk into a bank and ask about. So at every point in time, you have an investment, and that money can do wonders for you when you need it in future. But it's all about discipline. That I earn X amount of money. I decide that 10% goes into my investment account. This is a contingency for unplanned expenses. This is this. And you should actually put it on a piece of paper. You should put it somewhere on your phone, somewhere you can see it. And it shouldn't be there shouldn't be anything arguing about it. These things, those kind of monies, you shouldn't even see it in your bank account. It should something that you should have standing orders for. So before the money hits your account, it's already left your account. And then we shouldn't also cultivate the habit of borrowing. Okay, so that's also one thing I want us to take from the Bible that says that those who borrow, they are the servants of the lender. The borrower is a servant of the lender. And there are some people, they never get out of this loan trap because they borrow, the next time they need to borrow to pay that loan, and they keep borrowing and they live a life of loans and loans. It might be easy to go to your phone and say, oh, this is just MTN quick loan. But whether it is quick loan, it is slow loan, it is still a loan in a way. Okay. At every point in time, whatever you earn, you should live a lifestyle within that earning. And you should be proud of it. It's not monies that you got out of drugs or you got out of a contraband or doing something illegal. You worked for it. So it might not be huge, but even that amount that you've been able to make is a step forward. Don't feel under pressure to want to live a life that you have not reached yet. Okay, so we shouldn't make it a habit of borrowing monies. If I earn one cedi, I should be able to live a one cedi kind of life. Should be proud of myself that I have been able to work to make that kind of money. It doesn't matter if my friend is living a 100 cedi kind of life. Probably he has rich parents. Probably he has relatives that are willing to give him money on campus. Whatever it is that I have, I am proud of it. I live within it. And please don't make loans a habit. Okay, it starts with the small, oh, can I just get a quick loan? It looks easy because it's only on your phone. You don't need to go and ask anybody for anything. So, oh, papa, what is the code? Then you just do it. That's where it starts from. Before you know, you are borrowing from online apps. The next time you know, you're walking into a bank. And then from childhood, you tie yourself to loans. So if you see countries that started borrowing sometimes 50 years ago, as at now are still borrowing, why haven't they come out of the loan trap? Because a loan is just a trap, okay? It's making you live a life that you have not earned yet. So I'm supposed to be on level 10. I'm trying to live a level 20 life right now. So that's why I'll borrow. And sometimes the loan looks very attractive. Oh, no collateral. Oh, use now and pay later. The smart way to a posh living. All sorts of mantras to make it look very beautiful. But it doesn't matter how it is couched. A loan is a loan. And the borrower is a servant to the lender. So at a young age, learn to enjoy yourself, be happy about yourself. You don't need to be like everybody else. Okay. If you get X amount of money, there will always be somebody who has more than you. So it's not about living up to somebody's standard. Okay. And actually, over time, I've come to learn that the real rich people, the real people who have a lot of resources are actually very down to earth. You don't see them with all the bling blings, the 18 karat gold, the 24 karat necklaces and all that, because they've learned to realize it is just a grace that has been given to them. And you don't necessarily have to carry $1 million on your body to show that you're rich, okay? So you don't have to compare yourself to anybody. Everybody has different growth stages, okay? There are certain plants that within a few days after planting them, they sprout. But when they sprout, the same way they sprout, the same way they die very quickly because they don't have deep roots, okay? But there's a bamboo that takes about 5 years before you see one shoot coming out of it. But when that bamboo starts to grow, it can go over 50 meters because that 5 years where it is not showing any roots, it is actually building its root system. It's making sure that the root system is solid so that when it starts to grow 50 meters tall, no wind can break that bamboo down, okay? So it's not about everybody has iPhone XYZ, I must have some. Everybody drives this, I might have it. If you can afford it, enjoy it, that's fine. But if at that point in time you cannot afford it, enjoy what you have because it's also somebody's prayer point. What you think it's bad about your life. Oh, I only drive a Toyota. Somebody even wants an Okada, they can't afford it, you know. So whatever it is that you have, learn to enjoy it and learn to live within your means. Don't make a habit of borrowing. If you make a habit of borrowing, unfortunately, you may be borrowing for the rest of your life because you want to live up to the Joneses. You want to be seen as I am the latest in town. Believe me, people will see you for 2 seconds and you are late news. They are going on to the next exciting thing. So you don't need to show anybody any levels. You need to be yourself, enjoy being yourself, enjoy your growth stages. There's some time back, you look back and say, hey, was I the one who was using this yam? And it's something you will laugh over it, but it shows that you've grown, okay? You didn't have to borrow money to go and buy it. There are some people that they borrow money so much that even when people call their phones, they don't want to pick up. But there are people that as soon as their phone rings, they're able to pick up. Why? Because they have a clean mind, they sleep well, okay? So there's no need to keep up with everybody. And the last one I want to talk about is about relationships, especially when it's a distant relationship. Okay, so somebody says that, I said, oh, so whilst they are in one end and their partner is in somewhere else, then they take very poor decisions, thinking that probably the person is also doing something on the other end. But it's not about the other person, it's about you, okay? Because as I told you at the beginning, every action, there is a corresponding consequence that comes with it. So you may do something to spite someone else and end up being the one that is in trouble. So for instance, there was a situation where a gentleman was living with a lady he was not married to, but they had a child. And then he decided to go and marry somebody else. The lady did not know, only heard from a friend that, do you know that the person you are living with just went to get married to somebody? Out of anger, she went to burn down the new couple in their home. So, so was that a wise choice where you decided to go and burn them out? You could have as well decided that, well, if he's married now, let me move on. Yes, it might not be easy like that, but then you wouldn't be in prison. So now that you've killed 2 people and you've gone into Nsawam prison, you may never come out again. And this is a young lady under 30 years of age. You've been caged in Nsawam prison. And that means you've wasted God knows how many years of your life. Probably even if you had up to 70 years to live and you're 30 years, that is 40 years wasted. Okay, so in everything that we take a decision, we should know that there are consequences and that will guide us to take wise decisions so that in future we don't have regrets that probably we may not be able to go back and correct them. So if you see in my picture, the young people are taking pictures of themselves because they're having fun. Yes, it's good to have good fun, but do it with the right kind of people. And anybody who gives you pressure to be something you are not, you have the right to decide that I started this friendship, I am ending it. Okay, friends are not meant to be permanent. At any point in time, when somebody is becoming a burden, the same way you started a friendship, you have the right to end it. And you shouldn't feel sorry about it because it is your life and you have only one to live. So you might as well live it properly. So if I see that you were my friend from probably primary school to university, and at this point in time, I really can't take your kind of lifestyle, I will exit your circle with no apologies, okay? Because it's my life and I'm responsible for it. So I think I brought my presentation to an end.